to dwell on one verse in particular this morning and leave it with you for this week. It is, now is the acceptable time. In 1986, along with the others in the novitiate at the time, in those days it was in Voscre, the novice master, Father Peter, got us all together and we sang in harmony, "This is the acceptable time." Since then, many things have happened. One day, one of the young novices decided to make about turn and go home. Another did the same not long afterwards. One remained. He was already actually much older than the rest, and he's still there. He's actually now nearly 100 years old, and still with all his faculties. Another, who would probably have been the future abbot, went ahead and made his solemn vows. But something happened. He fell in love with the lassie who was working in the guest house, and although the immediate reason wasn't no straight away, he eventually broke his solemn vows and they got married. Unfortunately, it didn't finish there. He got cancer and is by now on the other side of eternity. And it occurred to me how some moments have a cosmic power. I often regret that I didn't listen when there. There are times when the Lord is trying to get through to us. There are times that affect all times to come, and that if we miss, never ever retrieve. Things, nevertheless, go on, and grace actually doesn't abandon ship. The Lord seeks us where we are, blunders and messes and all. The will of God is not something so static that we're condemned forevermore. It's something that in some way starts again where we're at, fixes us in our mess, and wills again our good. It's important. We must never ever abandon the project. The Lord zooms in to our mess where we are, and we go on from there, sometimes actually with a greater oomph than ever. Some of the great stories in the annals of sanctity are stories like that. One day in Rome, years ago, I happened to walk in to a church in the middle of Rome. And I was knocked between the eyes by a statue that I had known from years gone by through prayer cards and pictures. That's St. Bruno! And of course, that was the old Carthusian monastery of Italy, Santa Maria degli Angeli. And I was hit with a fulminating grace. And I remember something out of the blue saying, "You must get that grace back." That's impossible. And yet it was insistent. You must get that grace back. And so it was that quietly, under a powerful grace, I made a vow, if ever possible, I would. Years later, it was simply a moment in time which made that happen. Again in prayer, write to the Bishop of Meath. And again, one moment in time changed all other moments, because he too was listening. But we have to be very delicate in our interior ear, not to miss these graces of recuperation when they come. It happens to young people. Some people are potentially very close to a very good life when they brush shoulders with a potential marriage partner. Sometimes they don't snatch the occasion. Sometimes they botch it up through a lack of delicacy. A word which meshes up two lives. Words have long histories, my friend. And there are other occasions too. There are many young people who go through the crucial years of their life in some way blocking out the message from on high. I remember hearing this one time from a friend who was about to get married. He was making his retreat of marriage with us in Italy. And he just said this calmly towards the end of his retreat. On y a tous pensé. We have all thought of it. Mais il n'y avait rien, il n'y avait personne qui nous a appelés. But there was no one there to call us. In other words, these young men were all also possible candidates for ordination. No one called, and perhaps they too didn't listen to the interior call. And nowadays, my friends, it's very difficult for anyone to listen to anything but physical noise. Noise pumped at them all the time through a conditioning from below. So normal that that's the only acceptable and respectable normality. Listen to this. The rights of the present norm. A while back, this curious case came up in a court of law in Florida. It was an atheist who was creating a case against Easter and Passover holidays. He hired an attorney to bring a discrimination case against Christians and Jews and observances of their holidays, holy days, we would say. The argument was that it was unfair that atheists had no such recognized days. The case was brought before a judge. After listening to the passionate presentation by the lawyer, the judge banged his gavel, declaring, "Case dismissed." The lawyer immediately stood and objected to the ruling, saying, "Your Honor, how can you possibly dismiss this case? The Christians have Christmas, Easter, and others. The Jews have Passover, Yom Kippur, and Hanukkah. Yet my client and all other atheists have no such holidays." The judge leaned forward in his chair. "But you do. Your client, Counselor, is woefully ignorant." "Your Honor, we are unaware of any special observance or holiday for atheists. The calendar says April the 1st is April Fool's Day. Psalm 14 verse 1 states, 'The fool says in his there is no God. Thus, it is the opinion of this court that if your client says there is no God, then he is a fool. Therefore, April the 1st is his day. Court is adjourned. Tell your man, Rory Quinn, that he needs a lesson in logic if he thinks that the Catholic school has no right to teach religion. The norm, my friends, is so widespread that no one has the gumption to see that 2 and 2 make 4 and not 5.
Homeward bound, resolving to become a hermit. Homeward bound, I shall not walk again upon this road, nor shall I linger twixt eternity and moments rattling by. For where we strode, while waiting for the morrow yet to be, our feet we place not twice. We here move on, and on, my brother, on, for we have seen no pocket in the wind that will have gone tomorrow where tomorrow will have been. This is the hour on which I softly tread, but I now hold the morrow in my hand, and I have power o'er hours as yet unsaid, whose sound will stand for air if I here stand. There is a will that can the course of all in one charged second change beyond recall.